Hello, YouTube. Well, like I said last week, I've been making hay here for just about 50 years. And last week I talked about all the equipment I've used over the years to cut hay. So this week I thought I would talk a little bit about some of the ways that I've baled hay here over the last 50 years. And I'll start with a disclaimer. All the photos in this slideshow, except for the two balers that I currently own, are photos that I've pulled off the internet. So with that, we'll start at the beginning. When I bought my farm from my grandparents in 1976, of course I'd been operating the farm for a couple of years before that, but when I bought the farm and the equipment, the baler I got was a Alice Chalmers 303 square baler. And the baler I had actually had a bale thrower on it. Alice Chalmers, their throwers, instead of a belt, they used 6 rollers, 3 on top and 3 below. And it worked pretty good. And the 303 Alice, I think, was a pretty darn good baler. It always did good. The problem I had with this particular baler, one, I think they were built a little bit light to be having a thrower on back of them, but specifically the problem I had was that my grandfather, who was an extremely talented man, he had these throwers were built with a little arm, that spring-loaded arm to guide the thrower that you would drop down on the tongue of the wagon, and that's how the thrower would follow the wagon around. My grandfather had converted this to use a hydraulic cylinder he put a hydraulic cylinder on the thrower in the chamber to that you could control the thrower like most New Holland balers now. The problem was the chamber and the thrower really weren't built for that, and as a consequence, the using this hydraulic cylinder kind of broke up the back end of the baler pretty bad, the chamber and the thrower. So that was really the only reason I got rid of that baler. It was because the back end of it was kind of breaking up there. Otherwise, it tied good, it baled good. I think it was a pretty good baler. But anyway, with the back end of the baler kind of breaking up, I decided to get another baler. And I looked at New Holland and I looked at John Deere balers, and I bought a brand new John Deere 336 baler. And I'm sorry, John Deere guys, but I never liked that baler. I I had some issues with it. It didn't. As far as reliability, that wasn't a problem. There were just a lot of things about it that I didn't like. Just to name a couple, it had the feeder auger there by the pickup, and what I found was that if you would get into a windrow next to the woods that had a few green slugs in it, the green hay would wrap around the auger. You'd have to get out and unwrap that. That was a sort of a semi-regular occurrence. I didn't like the pan thrower for a number of reasons. If you'd be baling along and suddenly get into a really heavy spot in the windrow and have a couple of big slabs in it, the thrower, when it came back down, it would catch on the next bale and not reset itself. Like I said, I just didn't like that baler. Of course, I bought it brand new, so I put up with it for 20 years just out of stubbornness. But yeah, never liked that John Deere baler. So, like I said, sorry, green guys. Maybe some of the stuff that maybe some of the issues I had with it was my fault, but nonetheless, I never liked it. So eventually I sold that, and actually from the friend of mine who I farmed with. The next baler I bought from his dad. I bought a New Holland 315 baler. It had the New Holland belt thrower on it, and it wasn't a hydraulic thrower, it was the mechanical thrower. It had the belt off the flywheel and the long drive shaft. I had that baler for about 10 years, and it was, to be honest, it was pretty wore out when I got it. But it still did pretty good. I still liked it better than the John Deere. But like I said, had that for about 10 years. Even though it was pretty wore out, it got the job done. Then one day I think I was baling some straw with it, and I baled up part of a tree limb and busted the needles and busted up some of the knotters on it. So I went out looking for a replacement, and I replaced it with the baler that I still have right now. The 316 New Holland. The 316 has this 316 has a hydraulic thrower. It's got the hydraulic pump that runs off the flywheel, and I like this baler a lot. It has a lot of wear on it too, but it still does a good job. It's still a really good baler. I've had this baler around here for probably somewhere between 15 and 20 years. So and it'll probably be the last. In fact, at this point, I'm probably pretty sure it'll be the last square baler I'll own. Talking about round balers, in the late 80s or early 90s, I picked up a round baler. I went to a consignment auction and picked up a Gale 1500 round baler. It had the narrow belts. It had a manual tie on it. It had a string that you tied the tractor and pulled on the string to tie the bale off manually. Like I said at the time, it wasn't a great round baler, but it was a heck of a lot better than no round baler. In fact, at the time I bought this, there weren't a tremendous amount of round balers around. And the first year I owned this baler, I picked up enough custom work to essentially pay for it. So yeah, I used this 315 Gale. At that time, I was pulling it pretty much exclusively with a 706 gas, and that was my round baling rig. Had that for probably about 10 years until it sort of started getting pretty worn out. And then I picked up a new idea. I think, I'm trying to remember the model number of it now. I think it's a 486. Yeah, it was a gray one, the new idea 486. This baler wasn't too bad, but it was a soft center baler. It was a fixed bale chamber. Wasn't crazy about the soft center bales, especially in our operation. We store the round bales outside, and like I said, wasn't crazy about them. The plus side of them was supposed to be that they were easy for the cows to get started on to eat because of the soft center. But the soft center bales didn't hold their shape very well outside, and I suppose we had that baler for about 5 years or so, and then decided we wanted to go with something a little better. So, I think it was in 2006, we got looking around and picked up this Vermeer 605L with net wrap, so we could either twine tie or net wrap. And this is the round baler that I still have, and I really like it. It's the Vermeer. It's built like a tank. It's really, really heavily built. I have had one issue with it. It was about 10 years ago. The big metal drum in there that the bale sits on pretty much wore out. And of course, I took it all apart and took the old drum to a machine shop, and they made me a new one for about half the price of a new one would have cost me from Vermeer. So it worked out okay. But other than that, like I said, I really like this baler. And again, this will, in all likelihood, be the last round baler I'll ever have. So anyway, that's how I've baled hay here over the course of the last 50 years. So I hope you found this interesting. It's kind of interesting for me to remember back on all the stuff I've had and the way I've done things over the last 50 years. And hopefully I can keep plugging away for a few more years at this. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, we'll be back next week with a different video. Hopefully some more action of some kind. So until then, we'll see you later.